a new day.
Hi again. For 18 years, the Jefferson Awards have been honoring ordinary citizens who do extraordinary things for other people. It's often considered the Nobel Prize for public service here. Seattle's City Club selected the citizens to receive local Jefferson Awards, and then viewers of King 5 chose one to represent Washington at the National Awards in June. Stu Jacobson received that distinction at the local awards ceremony held yesterday. For nearly 20 years, he's been a tireless advocate to make child care in Washington safer for kids. So please welcome Stu Jacobson.
Hi, Margaret.
So nice to meet you, and
Honored to meet you.
congratulations.
Thank you kindly.
That's really wonderful and so well deserved. Your crusade for child care, safe child care, began with a personal event in your life. Tell us about that.
Well, about 20 years ago, my son, who had been going to what I thought was a quality child care, was abused. And after that, we discovered our journey legally, translated into what we could do to make it safer for other kids, and we found out this issue wasn't an isolated event. And so went to the state, realized they weren't as enthused. They have more of a mentoring for the business than monitoring and enforcement. So thus, I realized on my own I wasn't going to be effective, so I formed a nonprofit.
And tried to move it forward. Your issue got settled, but what I really like here is that you didn't leave it there. Okay, I'm okay, I'll just walk away from this. You decided, no, this needs a solution. What was that like? Was it a difficult journey to try to find a solution to this problem?
I wasn't a welcome partner in the beginning. I was shocked, but my wife had worked at Microsoft at the time, and email made it convenient to discover there were many problems in oversight and enforcement, and parents were not getting quick responses. So within about 2 weeks, the nonprofit was found, and within a couple of months, I was able to write an editorial for the Seattle Times, and out of nowhere, educators came, former Department of Early Learning workers, employees, health inspectors, and within about a year, it was easy because there were so many resources who worked within the system were concerned that the child wasn't the client.
Who knew already that there was a problem?
Yeah, there has to be a switch in the philosophy. Unfortunately, the businesses are there for many years and kids come and go, and it's not easy to be effective as a parent to make sure the system is clean and pure and diligent for the child, because unfortunately, often the business is the client.
And you know, this is so incredibly important because you're only leaving the person you love most in the world in the hands of somebody else. And you know, how do you know that it's a safe place or not? So what would you say all of this, the nonprofit and these efforts over the years, has really achieved? What's different now than when your son first experienced a problem?
There is no doubt that in the last 10 years, especially, early learning is the hot topic. And there's more dialogue, more engagement. And we now were able to get a website that took about 5 years where non-profit licensing infractions are posted. There's more dialogue. There's not as much safety as there should be, but we now know most parents are doing a better job making unannounced visits. We have a liability insurance. It's not mandatory, that's not good enough, but at some point it was more casual. We're looking for more things like fingerprinting of all workers, like we do K through 12. That's crazy not to have fingerprinting. We do that for humane. Well, you do that for the Humane Society.
You do that when you go to volunteer at a community or a city. Yeah, exactly.
Boys Club. That is not mandatory.
So we don't have that for daycare?
We do not have it. The only requirement is if you honestly say you live in Washington State 3 years or less, then they will ask you. But other than that, you have a whole litany. It's a Russian roulette for our children because it's an expensive $55, $56 cost, and the state's not willing at this point to pay for it.
What's the solution to this?
The state has to pay for it.
Has to do it.
Or if the state doesn't want to pay for it, if you're in a business like K through 12, you have to do it, you pay for it yourself. If this is our most precious commodity, our kids, it's kind of outrageous that today that we don't require training before employment. You do that in our state for dog groomers, zookeepers, masseuses, hair salon people. We require in our state all kinds of training, education before they're working with the public. Yet our children are exposed to people that may not have the qualifications to properly care for them.
I know money is tight, but my granddad used to say, show me your budget and I'll show you what's important to you. That's what we spend our money on.
Right.
So what can we as parents do to support this effort to try to make sure that these other improvements are made as they should be?
One of the first things that would motivate you was actually start beginning to visit your daycares, child care centers unannounced. You are the best eyes and ears for your children. You're going to be the best advocate. You'll probably be more engaged and committed to quality when you learn a little about it. Maybe go on our website, look to see if that window cord blind is there. We now know it's cost 10 lives in 10 years in Washington State. Make sure that they're doing the health issues. A child just died recently from E. coli, and there's no question, had our state still had Department of Health, it might have been a different outcome. The Department of Health budget was cut, and they were once a part of the enforcement part of early learning, and no longer are they there, and that could be a big safety gap that we're not seeing.
Right.
So parents need to get more engaged, get educated. There's books out there. Of course, our website has a list, and we should demand from our state, if I'm a parent, that we all get as parents a list, a checklist, a safety list of all the important safety regulations and health regulations. As parents, we should know so we can be the best advocates.
Absolutely. Did you find the legislature to be a good partner, or are they now at this point? Should we continue to write our legislators
There's
about
no
this?
question this is a tough issue because child care is seen as a business, a small business that is struggling with very little profit and less resources than they need. And what happens is you have unions, you have many advocates for the providers, and suddenly what you think is a simple bill like training requirement for lead teachers doesn't even get a hearing last session. So we have many people intellectually, emotionally aware. Children come first. But when you're in Olympia, when it comes up against money, sometimes money wins over ethics. So we do have a struggle.
We have to stay on top of it. I can hear the passion in your voice. I know you're not going to leave this topic. Show us your award. Do you have it with you?
Well, I have this. Obviously, it's gold, like the
like
hearts
the Olympics.
Yeah, the Olympics, and it really reflects all the dedication and focus and vision of the parents, because I was more of a vessel, I was a conduit, but they were the catalyst and the inspiration. So it was the parents, the educators, the ones who cared, who are in the trenches that we don't notice and we don't see, who really earned this award for us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you kindly. Thank you. Thank you.
Stu goes on to represent Washington State at the National Jefferson Awards in D.C. in June. We wish him lots of luck. Please go to our website for information on his organization, Parents for Safe Child Care, and to find out more about upcoming activities. Thank you again, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Day will be right back.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
That was good.